was a founding principle of our country, often less practiced than preached. But today we are a country of countless religious and philosophical traditions. What happens when one's faith falls outside the mainstream religions of America? Joining me to discuss the experience of some of those who embrace non-traditional religions and others who claim to have none at all are Leslie Nuthall, Associate Professor of Religious Studies and Dean of the Honors College at Florida International University. Sandra Cheryl Richardson is a Grand Elder High Priestess from the Religious Order of the Circle of Isis Rising. Ken Loukinen is President of the Florida Atheists and Secular Humanists and South Florida Regional Director of American Atheists. And Mary Lou Pfeiffer is an Adjunct Professor of Religious Studies and Fellow of the Honors College at Florida International University. Welcome all to the program. The Abrahamic faiths of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam pretty much dominate the religious landscape of America, but they're not the only players. And there are countless other philosophies and theologies at play today, and we want to look at some of them. One of those philosophies denies the existence of God. Sir, what does it mean for you to say that you are an atheist?
Well, essentially that's all it is that I do not have a belief in a God or gods. But to take it a little bit further, we discount anything that's supernatural or superhuman, and we rely on things that are provable, even if they're not proven yet.
Is there a difference between a humanist and an atheist?
Yes, a humanist doesn't necessarily give up that belief, and there are humanists who are theists. So secular humanists are basically humanists. They may still have a theistic belief, but they do believe in secularism, keeping church and state separate.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, we'll come back to that clearly. Tell me what it means to say that you are a sister of Isis, if that's what you say.
I would be more inclined to say priestess of Isis.
Okay, a priestess of Isis.
Basically what I believe is I do believe in divinity. I do believe that there is some force that is creative, that produces the spark of life, that animates our bodies, our spirits, and I do honor the divine force in the aspects of masculine and feminine qualities of divinity. I see goddess as well as God. And then we honor and hold sacred the four elements of the earth, air, fire, and water. So all things that are nature,
four elements, air, fire, water, and
earth, air, fire, and water. And we honor everything in the universe. We see the universe is alive, the earth is alive, and we honor the cycles and the changing of the seasons. And we hold reverence to all of these things.
And tell me who Isis is.
Isis is an Egyptian goddess, and she covers the areas of magic and mysticism. She was the first goddess that resurrected her husband Osiris when he was killed. She brought all the pieces back together, and through the magic that she knew or understood or was able to do, she brought him back to life and he was the first resurrected savior that is in recorded history.
Interesting. And a player in the book of Samuel and Kings, isn't she? Mm-hmm. Tell me about the traditions of Native American traditions.
Could I call it American tribal people rather than Native American?
You may call it anything you would like.
Native American. I'm a Native American. I was born here. My parents were born here. My grandparents.
Okay.
We can get into that.
Yeah, well, no, I don't want to get into that.
The tradition, the basic theme that runs through many of the American idiom traditions is this idea that the earth is our mother or grandmother, and the earth is sacred and should be treated as such. And the whole idea that there is a foundation for honoring the earth, and we shouldn't desecrate it, and we shouldn't completely destroy it.
Is the earth divine?
The earth, I wouldn't call it divine. I would say sacred, more than divine.
Is there a deity in tribal America?
In some tribal religions, there is a creator god. Most of the tribes refer to it as the mystery, the great mystery, the unknown. Some call it by name, and with the infusion of Christianity, a lot of them adopted a creator god that came about in their myths and their storytelling because they weren't allowed to practice their own.
Right, and does that God stands over against the earth? It's a different
the
creature.
earth is the mother, is the grandmother, is the giver of all life and the supporter of all life, and everything in the earth and on the earth should be honored and treated equally.
And is that description pretty well applied to tribal religions around the world, or is that unique to those in America?
I would say it's a major theme in particularly third world or indigenous cultures, but it's not necessarily ascribed by all of them.
And how would you guys get along?
Oh, I think we get along really well. We honor nature, we honor the animals. I agree with her completely. The earth is sacred. I do see the earth as living. It holds electromagnetic forces the same as our bodies. So to me, that lends a lot of credence for the earth being alive. It produces growth and trees and plants and all. So I wouldn't necessarily say I pray or see a deity in the form of the earth. I just see it as another life form.
Now, tell me, Leslie, what a pagan is.
Well, the original word means somebody who lives out in the country, but it came into use primarily to mean somebody who wasn't a Christian. I mean, Christians used it to mean, basically, if you weren't a Jew, well, Jews were pagans in a way, but pagans came to mean everybody who wasn't in one of those three traditions, basically, the Abrahamic traditions.
Is that right? It has not been used by other traditions about Christians, for instance. I mean,
I've never heard
you
of
wouldn't
that.
call a Christian a pagan.
No.
No, for them, pagan has been adopted in modern times now as a very positive term for people practicing alternative religions that don't really borrow the Christian, Judaic, Islamic ideas of what God and human history have been. So it's become a positive word now for people who have either resurrected older traditions or taken some of the inspiration from those older traditions and created new traditions that once again focus on the kinds of things that
in the old
Nathan's
sense of
talking
the word,
about.
a Christian would call anything that's not Christian paganism.
You know, it's a negative term. It's a pejorative term
It is
from the
a
Christian
pejorative term,
point of view.
But it's not reversed. I mean, the Mormons call non-Mormons Gentiles, and they're a very separate kind of creature. That's not true, and of course none of you. I suspect that none of you were born and raised in what you're not. None of you. Neither of you were born and raised in the traditions that you embrace now.
Correct.
Correct.
I wouldn't agree with that. I believe that everybody is actually born atheist. All religions are taught to you. If you live here in America and you grow up in the Deep South, chances are you grow up as a Baptist because your parents are Baptist and your community is Baptist.
Right.
But if you had been born in India, you would be Hindu, or anywhere in the Middle East, a Muslim. So any infant born has no really concept of God. That's something that has to be taught to them.
Does an infant have a concept of another? A transcendent concept?
So let me just say something about that,
We don't know
because
enough.
it's really ironic that you asked that, because in my classes I'll often ask students, let's assume we have some baby that falls off the back of a cruise ship when it's born or something, somehow or other never has contact with human beings or animals that have any kind of recognizable language. Will that baby ever develop an idea of God? And it's amazing, because the students want to fight very hard that the baby will. But in point of fact, I mean, my argument has always been that without some kind of models of relationship, first of all, you can't develop an idea of God, because God is basically a model of an extreme relationship that human beings develop. That's why Christians call God Father. You know, that's the human relationship that it models. But I would have to agree with Ken that baby is born tabula rasa. Baby is born without any particular...
And without any cultural or relational
preconceptions. It has no preconceptions. It doesn't have any conceptions at all.
So God is so the idea of God, from your perspective, is a creation of the culture in which you were born.